Every game needs an easy mode. You just need to learn to deal with it. This is On the Level. It's a truth universally acknowledged among gamers that playing a video game on the easiest mode makes you a loser. Sorry, I don't make the rules, that's just the way it is. Just because you'd rather sit and enjoy the experience at a pace and level that feels comfortable to you, you're apparently somehow less of a gamer, as if that's ever been a quantifiable concept. Let's be honest with ourselves though, there's absolutely nothing wrong with wanting to play video games on easy mode. In fact, I'd like to go ahead and suggest that every single video game out there needs to start including an easy or assist mode as industry standard. Yes, even games like Dark Souls. I'm sure some of you are outraged at such a suggestion, so let's take From Software's super challenging franchise as our first example, because I think as a series it's a good jumping on point for a discussion about accessibility and difficulty in video games. As far as I see it, there are two main arguments against the Dark Souls easy mode. The first is something that the internet likes to refer to as get good, which is essentially shorthand for if you can't play it as it is, you shouldn't be playing it at all. The get good argument, yet we're sticking with that, is utter nonsense of course. There are dozens of reasons why someone might not want to or even be able to play a game like Dark Souls the way it is. Maybe they're a parent and have limited time to game in the evenings, so can't sink the hours required to learn the moves and patterns of the franchise's famously demanding boss battles. Maybe they live with some form of disability that means they literally can't play the game the way it is. Does that really mean that they should be missing out? Whatever the case, it doesn't strike me as entirely fair that people who want to play a game like Dark Souls are unable to because of the difficulty level, when some kind of optional assist mode could easily remedy this and help scores of gamers discover the game's gorgeous, interconnected world and fearsome bosses. Those that are against Dark Souls having an easy mode tend to be super vocal about it, but here's the thing. How does it really actually affect them if other people are able to play on an easier setting? Would these people honestly suddenly be unable to enjoy the challenge of Dark Souls just because they know there's an assist mode of some kind in the menu? A mode they would never ever have to turn on because they were able to get good without any help? I've beaten all 3 Dark Souls games and Bloodborne. I love how challenging these titles are, but knowing someone else was able to beat it on an easier setting would do nothing to lessen my enjoyment of them. It shouldn't for anybody. The second argument against having an easy mode in Dark Souls is one that does come from a place of logic and reason rather than blind, dismissive elitism, and it's one that could be extended against the concept of assist modes in general. This argument suggests that Dark Souls is an intrinsically challenging game, and that its difficulty is a key, perhaps unavoidable, part of the experience. Shouldn't developer From Software be able to craft and release its game and have people experience it in the way they intended? Shouldn't every developer have that right? It's an interesting point, though one that could be countered by the notion that players should be able to play games however they want. I mean, if someone can play through Dark Souls on a potato or with a set of Guitar Hero drums, why can't someone else play through on an easy mode? It's absolutely understandable for a developer to want you to play through their game in a specific way, but should this be done at the expense of certain players? Surely, as long as the developer makes it clear that there is an intended way to play, then the majority will be happy to play through it that way, and the rest can still experience the game in some capacity. I imagine there are plenty of inexperienced gamers who might even see playing a game like Dark Souls on easy mode as a way of easing into the game before playing through in the proper way. What would be wrong with that? The notion of a developer's singular vision and a player's right to enjoy a game in the manner of their choosing are bound to butt heads, but there are plenty of recent and outstanding games that had a clear intended way to play, but still managed to offer plenty of accessibility options so that as many people as possible could get in on the fun. So let's take a look at a couple of assist modes from recent games and talk about what they did right. I'm going to start with the excellent Super Mario Odyssey, a gorgeous 3D platformer that offered an incredibly helpful mode that was predominantly created for younger players. Even people who have an issue with the concept of a Dark Souls easy mode can't argue that a Mario game should absolutely offer extra help for those that need it. While the Super Mario games are definitely great for all ages, they certainly attract a larger player base of young children. Nintendo decided that some of these nippers would want to play Super Mario Odyssey, but might be a bit too young to deal with the occasionally complex platforming challenges or large maps. As a result, it included this entirely optional assist mode that could be toggled on or off at any time. This mode guides you to your next objective at all times, gives you extra health, and drops you right back into the action if you miss a jump or fall, instead of just killing you and sending you back to the checkpoint. This fantastic mode allowed for kids as young as 4 or 5 to experience the brightly coloured joy of Super Mario Odyssey, and there's absolutely zero penalty for choosing to play the game in assist mode. No snide taunts, no content held back until you beat the game properly, nothing. There are those that would no doubt argue that when they were young, they had to play Mario games without an easy mode, as if that should mean anything to any of us. So what if you didn't have assist modes back in your day? We didn't have Nando's or wireless broadband either, and the world's better for having both of those in it. Honestly, trying to argue that a Super Mario game shouldn't have any kind of an easy mode is like insisting that your kid try to ride a bike for the first time without stabilizers. It's utterly pointless elitism, and I've got no time for it. In short, Super Mario Odyssey did what a good assist mode should do. It made the game as accessible as possible to as many people as possible, without without diluting the experience for those who wanted to tackle the game in a way Nintendo primarily had in mind. The punishing platformer Celeste is another great example of a game that absolutely nailed the concept of an assist mode and how to implement it. Let's be clear, this is a game that's much closer to Dark Souls than Mario in terms of difficulty, and that challenge is directly tied to the core premise of the game, more so than Dark Souls even. Perhaps for this reason, Celeste's creator Matt Thorsten was originally not at all into the idea of putting an assist mode in his intricately designed platformer. He said in an interview with Charged Shot, "I was originally against the idea, but I think it was Noel, Amora, and Gabby from the team who workshopped the idea, and it started making sense late in development. We allocated a few days to implementing it in the last month, and I'm super glad we did. We've gotten a lot of messages from people who are thankful they were able to experience the game because of assist mode, and I think it's consistent with the message of the game." Celeste's assist mode is a super detailed package that lets you tweak how fast the game is for those that aren't confident in their reaction times. It also allows you to add invulnerability and as many jumps as you'd like. Some people might call this cheating. Hell, being able to toggle the game's speed and even your own invulnerability sounds like something you'd get in a classic cheat menu. But did anyone have a problem with people using cheats to experience the game on their terms back in the late 90s and early noughties? Spoiler, they did not. Like I said, Celeste is a game where the challenge is a huge part of the experience. This is something that's made very clear to any player who's about to turn on the assist mode in an entirely non-judgmental way. See, the developers of Celeste have it just right. Matt Thorsten was adamant that his game should be enjoyed the way that he painstakingly designed it, but he eventually acknowledged that there are some people who just want to play through the story, hear the great music, and not struggle through a game that they just generally aren't good at. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, and the team behind Celeste knew it. The third and final game I'd like to talk about is the Resident Evil 2 remake. Capcom's outstanding survival horror sets out to scare you through a blend of scarce resources, terrifying set pieces, and grisly enemies that are hard to put down, and even harder to make stay down. This is a game that sets out to make you poop your pants and feel as uncomfortable as possible, so it was surprising to many that the game contained an assist mode. This mode contains slightly weaker enemies, the ability to recover health up to a point, and an aim assist, which generally means you'll always have more ammo on your person, and feel just a little bit safer as a result. Speaking from personal experience, I know there are people out there who adore the Resi series, but ironically struggle with horror games due to anxiety and other factors. Obviously, Resi 2 is the most visceral, immersive game in the franchise to date, so for the anxious horror fan out there, being able to do at least one run-through on assist mode is a huge helpful move. Playing the game on assist doesn't stop it from being an absolutely terrifying game, what with the being relentlessly pursued by dark mutated horrors and all, but it can act as a security blanket of sorts for those who need a gentle push to continue through the dark, even if it's not the recommended way to play. Now, I'm sure plenty of you are wondering why anyone who struggles with horror titles should even be attempting to play a game like Resident Evil 2, but all I can say is this: Resident Evil 2 is a fantastic piece of work, and as many people as possible should be able to enjoy it as best they can. If assist mode can do that, and crucially drive up sales so we can get a remake of Resident Evil 3, then you'll hear no complaints from me. I guess your opinion on whether games should have assist modes or easy modes or anything of the sort all comes down to who you think gets to decide what the right way to play a game is, if you even think such a thing exists. Personally, I think they're the future. Celeste and Super Mario Odyssey picked up a ton of Game of the Year awards in their respective release years, and the Resident Evil 2 remake is bound to do exactly the same. The extra accessibility features to help as many people as possible didn't stop any of those games from being beloved gameplay experiences exactly in the way the developer intended, and probably helped overall sales and goodwill while making zero difference to anyone who decided to play these games without such features enabled. So next time someone tells you they think Dark Souls shouldn't have an easy mode, next time they try and tell you that assist modes are pointless, maybe have a think about it. What are your thoughts on assist modes? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to Unilad Gaming on YouTube for more.